So Bernie Sanders was on Face the Nation this Sunday, and he was asked questions about Trump and the war. And some of you may have seen this on Twitter because it blew up on Twitter, but I wanted to cover it. Let's take a look at how these questions are framed. That's what I really want you to pay attention to while we look at this, and then we're going to come right back.
Calling off the strike on Iran was actually applauded by some Democrats, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. We traveled to Columbia, South Carolina Saturday and asked Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders if the president made the right decision.
See, it's like somebody setting a fire to a basket full of paper and then putting it out. He helped create the crisis, and then he stopped the attacks. The idea that we're looking at a president of the United States who, number one, thinks that a war with Iran is something that might be good for this country.
He was just doing a limited strike.
Oh, just a limited strike. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I just didn't know that it's okay to simply attack another country with bombs, just a limited strike. That's an act of warfare. The war in Iraq, Margaret, was a disaster. I believe from the bottom of my heart that a war with Iran would be even worse, more loss of life, never-ending war in that region, massive instability. So I will do everything I can, number one, to stop a war with Iran. Let's remember what we learned in civics, when we were kids. It is the United States Congress, under our Constitution, that has war-making authority, not the President of the United States. If he attacks Iran, in my view, that would be unconstitutional.
So if you are commander-in-chief, you will ask Congress for permission before you engage in any kind of military action?
Look, there are some times of emergency situations. Okay, that I understand.
Defensive actions?
Yeah, if you're attacked immediately, you have to respond. Nobody believes that we are in that type of emergency situation with Iran right now. So I'm going to do everything we can to stop that war. And what the function of a president should be is to say to Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, is a horrific dictatorship, a brutal dictatorship that kills dissidents, that treats women as third-class citizens. Our job is to say to Saudi Arabia, we're not following your lead. You're going to have to sit down with Iran. We will play a role. Work it out. The United States does not want to continue to lose men and women and trillions of dollars in never-ending wars in the Middle East. Work it out.
We'll be back with more of our interview with Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
All right. So this is like clear textbook military industrial complex propaganda framing. I mean, and Bernie does such a great job of reframing the debate, and he does it in a way that makes it very clear that it's common sense that we shouldn't be going to no wars with nobody in the middle dang East. And especially being Saudi Arabia's henchmen, basically. We're funding a terrible, one would say, terrorist regime. Like, I've heard people call them that before. Terrorists chop off, ISIS chop off people's heads. Saudi Arabia chop off people's heads. They stone people in the public square for ridiculous offenses. ISIS do that too. So I mean, it's on the one hand, it's their culture. They follow. They can do whatever they want. But on the other hand, if we're going to be going to war with other countries for these types of offenses, why we ain't squalling up with Saudi Arabia too? But the way it's framed, though, is what I really want to focus on. She frames it as if President Trump made a good decision. And it wasn't about, the issue isn't about whether he made a good decision, because he created the situation in the first place by burning up the Iran deal. And let's keep it 1,000. It's an election year. Trump's doing this so he can get reelected. That's not news to anyone. That is the strategy here. And he knows that the military-industrial complex, regardless of how terrible the president is always going to get behind a president that wants to go to war. They're always going to do that because that means more money for them, period. And your military-industrial complex is a set of corporations. It's a bunch of corporations, and those corporations have one goal because they're corporations: increase their bottom line. And what increases their bottom line? War. 60% of our expenditures in this country are on war. 60% of our economy is war. So you think that these people have a bias? Look at who pay for their commercials, bruh. Like, it's not a surprise what this man is up against when he goes into those circles. I think that he does a fantastic job. But not only that, I think that it should have been framed. Those questions should have been framed better. Like, even if you're trying to be an objective journalist, which isn't a thing, but I'll just assume I've been trained for the regular rules of journalism. What you would want to do in that situation, even if you're a regular journalist who believes in objectivity, you wouldn't frame those questions in a way to make Trump look good or bad. You would want to frame it in a way that puts everything into context. And that's what Bernie does. He does this journalist's job for her. And I mean, if he, and I don't want you to think that I'm specifically, because I'm uncomfortable just bigging up a dude over a woman. So, like, I think that if you had somebody like Anna Kasparian, maybe, and some of y'all might feel some kind of way about Anna Kasparian, but like, if you had an Anna Kasparian asking those questions, they would have been framed properly. She also teaches journalism. So, you know what I mean? Like, those questions could have been framed much better. If I was asking those questions, I would say we had President Trump get praise by a lot of Democrats and the Democratic Party establishment for pulling back from a war. And he's also getting ready to push sanctions. He's also getting, you know what I mean? You got to put extra context on that thing. It's not just he pulled back from a war. Congratulations to Trump. People liked him. Like, no, that's dumpster juice. Like, straight up. The best way you need to frame it in a way that, okay, he torched the Iran deal. He caused this problem. Not only is he causing the problem, he's exacerbating it by putting more sanctions on them today. That's none of that stuff is mentioned. We're currently financing Saudi Arabia, who's going after Iran, who's their enemy and is fighting with them in that region for control of the region. None of that context is there. And that is the problem with her framing. I think that there's long lists of journalists that would have framed that question properly. And I don't want to specifically get on this particular journalist that asked him the questions because the mainstream media is full of them. They pay very well. There's a long line of people looking to get them jobs to ask them dang softball, framed friendly questions to make Trump and the establishment look good. Let's just keep it 1,000. There's a long line of people. I went to school with them. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get specifically on the particular journalist that did this, because it's a systemic issue with American media in general, with corporate media in general. This is why, and I hate to go right back to this plug, but this is why we need independent media. We need media that is not funded by the corporate elite. We need media that isn't focused on getting a bottom line, but rather its goal is to be a watchdog for the people. And that's what we do here at Status Coup, and that's what being funded by you does for us. So we appreciate our members. We're approaching that 500 member goal. We appreciate we appreciate all our subscribers. Subscribe, hit the bell if you haven't. Smash that like button. I don't know why I say smash that like button. That's Jordan's word. I think I'm gonna use something else. I'm gonna come up with something else. Hit me in the comments, and if you think something's better than smash that like button, well, I'm serious. Whichever one of y'all get the most likes, I'm gonna start saying that. Unless I just find it to be real cool. No, even if I find it to be corny, I'm gonna start saying it. I'll get used to it, because y'all I want to be the media for the people. So y'all tell me. I'm not gonna say smash that like button no more. We're gonna get a new word. But yeah, become a member. Hit the like button. Hit the bell. Subscribe. Thank you guys. Talk to you later.